What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest stars completely loses it on live television? In just 21 seconds, everything fell apart. Before we get into this absolute chaos, make sure you subscribe to our channel for daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals. You won't believe what we uncover next. Last night, on The View, what started as a simple conversation turned into one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. Ryan Reynolds walked onto that stage with his usual charm and that signature smile everyone knows. But nobody could have predicted what was about to go down. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a complete meltdown, captured live in front of millions of viewers who watched in shock as things spiraled completely out of control. The studio audience had been excited when Ryan walked out. They cheered, they clapped, they were ready for the funny stories and charming banter that Ryan Reynolds is famous for. The man knows how to work a crowd. He's been doing it for years. He walks into a room and people just light up. That's his thing. That's what makes him one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood. But from the moment he sat down in that chair, something felt off. Something wasn't right. The audience clapped as Ryan settled into his seat across from the hosts. Joy Behar leaned forward with her notes, and right away you could feel something was different. The energy in the room wasn't quite right. Ryan's smile seemed a little forced, a little tight around the edges. The other hosts exchanged glances, like they could sense something was coming but couldn't quite put their finger on what it was. There was this weird tension hanging in the air, this feeling that something was about to break. "So Ryan, let's talk about your new movie," Joy started, but there was an edge to her voice that made everyone pay attention. Every single person in that studio could hear it. "You've been doing a lot of press lately, talking about how this film is so important, so meaningful. But some people are saying it's just another cash grab for you, another paycheck, another way to keep the money machine running." The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode, like a grenade with the pin pulled out, just sitting there, waiting for the inevitable blast. Ryan's smile flickered, just for a second. But everyone saw it. The camera caught it. The audience felt the shift immediately. This wasn't the fun, light-hearted interview they were expecting. This wasn't going to be Ryan making jokes about his wife or telling funny stories from the set. This was something else entirely. "That's an interesting way to start this conversation, Joy," he said, his voice still friendly, but with a new sharpness to it, like a knife being slowly unsheathed. "I'm not sure where you're getting that from. We've been working on this project for 3 years. 3 years of development, of fighting to get it made, of bringing together an incredible team of people who believed in this story. 3 years of my life dedicated to something I truly care about." Joy shuffled her papers and looked directly at him, not backing down even an inch. Her expression was hard, determined. "Well, you've made, 5 movies in the last 2 years? And they're all pretty much the same character, aren't they? The funny guy who cracks jokes while everything explodes around him. The wisecracking action hero who never takes anything seriously. When does it stop being art and start being just a paycheck? When do you stop being an actor and start being a brand?" You could hear a few gasps from the audience. Actual gasps. People's hands went to their mouths. This was harsh. This was personal. And everyone in that studio knew it. Some audience members looked at each other with wide eyes, as if asking, "Is this really happening?" The cameras panned across the audience, capturing their shocked expressions, their uncomfortable shifting in their seats. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One of them tried to smile, tried to lighten the mood, but it wasn't working. Nobody was buying it. This wasn't the playful banter The View was known for. This felt personal. This felt like an attack. This felt like Joy had come loaded for bear, ready to tear into Ryan Reynolds the second he sat down. Ryan's jaw tightened, his teeth clenched, and he leaned back in his chair, taking a moment before responding. You could see him trying to maintain his composure, trying to keep it together. "You know, Joy, I come on shows like this to talk about the work, to talk about the hundreds of people who pour their hearts into making these films, Ryan said, his voice getting harder with each word, like each sentence was costing him more and more effort to keep calm. But if you want to sit here and tell me I'm just collecting paychecks, that's pretty disrespectful to everyone involved. That's disrespectful to the writers who spent months on the script, to the directors who fought to bring their vision to life, to the crew members who worked 16-hour days to make this happen, to the actors who gave everything they had to their performances. Joy wasn't backing down, not even a little bit. She leaned forward, her eyes locked on Ryan's, like a predator stalking its prey. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm asking a legitimate question. Your fans want to know when they're going to see you actually stretch yourself as an actor, instead of playing it safe. When are we going to see the real Ryan Reynolds, not just the character you've been playing for the last decade? When are you going to take a risk and show us something we haven't seen before? Because right now, it feels like you're coasting. It feels like you've found a formula that works, and you're just repeating it over and over and over again. Ryan's knuckles were white where he gripped the armrest. You think I'm not taking risks? You think it's easy to put yourself out there, to create something from nothing? Do you have any idea what it takes to get a movie made? The years of development, the constant rejection, the fighting with studios who want you to play it safe, who want you to make the same thing over and over? I fight against that every single day. Playing it safe? Ryan's voice rose slightly, and you could hear the frustration building like a pressure cooker about to blow. His face was getting redder by the second. You think making movies that bring joy to millions of people is playing it safe? You think building a production company from the ground up and giving opportunities to new filmmakers is playing it safe? Do you have any idea how hard it is to get a movie made in this industry? How many projects die in development hell? How many talented people never get their shot because the system is broken? Because people like you sit there and tear down everything instead of building anything up? The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. You could feel it in the air, crackling like electricity before a storm. Like the whole room was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The audience had gone completely silent. Not a cough, not a whisper, nothing. Even the other hosts seemed frozen, their hands clasped in front of them, unsure of whether to jump in or let this play out. The camera operators kept filming, their hands steady even though everyone knew this was rapidly becoming something unprecedented. Something that had never happened on this show before. Joy pressed on, seemingly determined to push Ryan to his breaking point. It was like she wanted this to happen, like she needed him to snap. But Ryan, let's be honest here. You've got a formula, and you stick to it because it makes money. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't pretend it's something more than it is. Don't pretend you're some kind of artist, when you're really just a businessman in actor's clothing. You're a brand, you're a product, and that's fine. But own it. Don't sit here and act like you're doing something noble. That last line hit like a slap across the face. You could see it in Ryan's expression. The mask of professional courtesy was cracking, piece by piece, like glass spiderwebbing, right before it shatters completely. Ryan's face flushed red. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard you could see the veins popping in his forearms. Pretend? Are you serious right now? You sit behind this desk every day and give your opinions on things you know nothing about, and I'm the one pretending? You want to talk about authenticity? Let's talk about authenticity, Joy. Let's really dig into what that means. Because from where I'm sitting, you're the one who's not being authentic. You're the one who brought me here under false pretenses. Excuse me? Joy's voice went up an octave, her own face reddening now, matching Ryan's. I've been in this industry for decades. I think I know a thing or two about authenticity. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, the biggest stars on the planet. So don't you dare sit there and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't you dare question my credentials or my integrity. Really? Ryan shot back, his voice getting louder, his composure slipping further with each passing second. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're attacking me for no reason other than to create a viral moment for your show. Is that authentic enough for you? Is that what decades of experience taught you? How to ambush people for ratings? How to tear someone down on live television because it's good for business? The other hosts tried to intervene. One of them, her voice shaking slightly, her hands raised in a peacekeeping gesture, put her hand up and said, "Guys, maybe we should take a breath here. Let's dial this back a bit. We're all professionals. Here. We can have a civil conversation about this. There's no need for things to get this heated." Another host chimed in, "Maybe we should move on to a different topic. Let's talk about something else. Ryan, tell us about working with the cast. Tell us about some fun moments on set." But Ryan and Joy weren't listening anymore. They were locked in, staring each other down like two fighters in a ring, neither willing to back down first, neither willing to give an inch. The studio had become a battlefield, and everyone else was just collateral damage, just witnesses to something that was spinning completely out of control. "I invited you here for a conversation, not to be insulted," Joy said, her voice icy cold but trembling with barely contained rage. Her whole body was tense, rigid. "If you can't handle a few tough questions, maybe you should stick to those softball interviews you usually do. Maybe you should stick to the talk shows that let you plug your movies without any real scrutiny. Maybe you should stick to the shows where they treat you like royalty and never challenge you on anything. Is that what you want? To never be questioned? To never be held accountable?" That was it. That was the moment everything exploded. That was the point of no return. The moment where this stopped being a heated argument and became something much, much worse. Ryan stood up from his chair so fast it almost fell over backward. The sudden movement made everyone in the studio jump. Several audience members actually gasped out loud. "Tough questions? Is that what you call this? You haven't asked me one genuine question since I sat down. This whole thing was a setup from the beginning, wasn't it? You brought me here just to tear me down on live television. You had this planned out before I even walked through that door. Nobody set you up." Joy fired back, standing up as well, refusing to let Ryan have the high ground, refusing to be intimidated. The two of them were now standing face to face across the table, and the tension was so thick you could barely breathe. The air in that studio felt suffocating. You just don't like being called out. You don't like being challenged. You're so used to everyone kissing your ass that you can't handle it when someone actually pushes back. When's the last time someone actually questioned you, Ryan? When's the last time you had to defend yourself? Called out for what? Ryan's voice was loud now, echoing through the studio, probably rattling the microphones, making the sound engineers wince. For working hard? For making movies people actually want to see? For building a career that I'm proud of? For creating opportunities for other people? You want to talk about authenticity, Joy? Let's talk about how you're treating a guest on your show. This is bullshit, and you know it. This is absolute bullshit, and deep down, you know exactly what you're doing. The audience gasped collectively. The curse word hung in the air like a neon sign, impossible to ignore. This was daytime television. This wasn't supposed to happen. You don't swear on morning shows. You don't lose your temper like this. But it was happening. Right there, right now. And nobody could stop it. The cat was out of the bag, and there was no putting it back. The producers in the control room were probably losing their minds, scrambling to figure out if they should cut to commercial, if they should kill the feed, if they should do something, anything to stop this disaster from getting worse. But they didn't. Maybe they froze. Maybe they wanted to see where this went. Maybe they realized cutting away would make it worse. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every single second. America kept watching, unable to look away from the spectacle. Joy's face went from red to almost purple. Her hands were shaking, whether from anger or adrenaline, nobody could tell. Both, probably. "You don't get to come on my show and talk to me like that. I've been doing this since before you were even acting. I've earned my place here. I've put in the years. I've paid my dues." I don't need some pretty boy movie star coming in here and disrespecting me on my own show. This is my show. You're just a guest. Then maybe you should know better. Ryan shot back, his finger pointing at Joy now, his whole body language aggressive in a way nobody had ever seen from him before. This wasn't the charming, funny guy from the movies. This was someone who had been pushed too far. Maybe after all these years, you'd have learned how to have a real conversation instead of ambushing people for ratings. Maybe you'd have learned that attacking someone isn't the same as journalism. This isn't journalism, Joy. This is a hit job. This is character assassination, dressed up as an interview. One of the other hosts stood up and tried to calm things down, her voice pleading, "Let's all just take a moment, please, guys. This doesn't have to get more heated. We can all sit back down and have a civilized conversation." But Ryan was already reaching for his microphone, his hands fumbling with the wire as he tried to unhook it from his shirt. His movements were jerky, aggressive, the movements of someone who had completely lost patience. "No, I'm done. I don't need to sit here and be disrespected. I came here thinking we'd have an actual conversation about the work, about the film, about anything real. Instead, I get this attack disguised as journalism. This isn't an interview. This is an ambush." Joy crossed her arms defensively, her whole posture rigid with anger. "You're being dramatic. You're being a child. This is what happens in real interviews. People ask hard questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing press at all." "Hard questions?" Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it whatsoever. It was a bitter, angry sound that cut through the studio like a knife. "Joy, you're not Barbara Walters. You're not uncovering some deep truth here. You're not exposing some scandal or holding me accountable for anything real. You're just being rude for the sake of being rude, and I'm not going to sit here and take it. I won't do it." The tension had reached a breaking point that nobody in that studio had ever experienced before. Security guards were starting to move closer to the stage, their hands on their radios, unsure if they needed to step in, unsure if this was about to get physical. The audience was completely silent now, frozen in their seats, watching this disaster unfold in real time like witnesses to a car crash they couldn't look away from. Joy's voice got even louder, almost shrill now. "Fine. If you want to leave, then leave. But don't act like you're taking some moral high ground here. Don't walk out of here and pretend you're the victim. You just can't handle criticism. You can't handle someone not worshiping you." Ryan turned to face her fully, his microphone now in his hand, the wire dangling loose. His face was still red, his breathing heavy. "This isn't criticism, Joy. This is you trying to take someone down for your own ego. This is you trying to prove you're still relevant by attacking people who come on your show in good faith. And you know what? I feel sorry for anyone who has to come on this show and deal with this crap. I genuinely feel sorry for them." "That's enough," Joy said, her voice shaking with anger, her finger pointing at the exit. "Get off my stage. Get off my show. You're done here." "Oh, I'm going," Ryan said, already walking toward the exit, his steps quick and purposeful. "Don't worry about that. Don't you worry about that for 1 second. But just know that everyone watching this can see exactly what this is. This isn't journalism. This isn't entertainment. This is just mean. This is just you being cruel because you can." Joy shouted after him, her voice cracking with emotion. "Nobody forced you to come here. Nobody held a gun to your head." Ryan stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back one more time, his face a mixture of anger and disappointment. "You're right. Nobody forced me. And that's a mistake I won't make again. That's a mistake I will never, ever make again. Good luck with your ratings, Joy. Hope this was worth it. Hope destroying someone on live television was worth whatever boost you get from this." The other hosts were trying to talk, trying to save the show, trying to salvage something from this wreckage, but their voices were drowned out by the chaos. One of them had tears in her eyes. Another looked shell-shocked, like she couldn't believe what she was witnessing. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay silent. Some people were recording on their phones, capturing every second of this meltdown, knowing this was going to be everywhere within minutes. "You're walking off my show?" Joy yelled, her voice cracking even more. "Real mature, Ryan. Real professional. Run away like a coward." "Professional?" Ryan laughed again, shaking his head in disbelief. "You want to talk about professional? Look in the mirror, Joy. Take a good long look in the mirror and ask yourself if this is who you want to be. Ask yourself if this is what you want your legacy to be." With that, Ryan Reynolds walked off the stage, tossing his microphone to a stunned crew member who barely caught it. His footsteps echoed in the silent studio as he headed for the exit, each step sounding louder than it should, like drum beats marking the end of something. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Joy's shocked face, the other hosts' uncomfortable expressions, and the audience's complete disbelief at what they'd just witnessed. Some people in the audience were crying. Others were sitting there with their jaws hanging open. This wasn't what they signed up for when they got tickets to The View. The boom microphones picked up Ryan's voice from offstage as he said to someone, probably his manager or publicist, "Get me the hell out of here. I'm done with this circus. I'm done with this absolute circus. I should never have come here. This was a mistake from the beginning." Back on stage, Joy tried to compose herself, but you could see her hands shaking as she gripped the desk. Her face was still flushed, her breathing rapid, her chest heaving. One of the other hosts attempted to throw to a commercial break, but her voice wavered, cracked, almost broke completely. We need to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Please, we'll be right back. Just give us a moment." But even as they cut away, even as the director started screaming into headsets, you could hear Joy's voice, still heated, still angry, still defensive, still trying to justify what had just happened. "Can you believe that? Can you believe he just walked off like that? Who does he think he is? I was just asking questions. I was just doing my job. That's what we do here. We ask hard questions." The audience members were already pulling out their phones, if they hadn't already, texting friends, posting about what they'd just seen, sharing clips that would be viewed millions of times before the day was over. This was going to be everywhere within minutes. This was going to trend on every social media platform. This was going to be the talk of the internet for days, maybe weeks. This was going to define both of their careers in ways neither of them could have predicted when they woke up this morning. One crew member, standing near the cameras, was overheard saying to another, "In 20 years of working on this show, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything even close to that. I've seen arguments before, sure, but nothing like this. Nothing this explosive." Another crew member responded, his voice shaky, his hands trembling, "Is he coming back? Should we do something? Should someone go after him?" "He's gone," someone else said, a great production assistant who had just run back from the hallway. "He's already out of the building. He walked straight out the door, got in a car, and left. He didn't even stop. Just walked right past everyone." The stage manager was frantically trying to figure out what to do next, flipping through papers, talking rapidly into her headset, her voice urgent and panicked. The producers were screaming into headsets, trying to coordinate, trying to figure out if they should address this when they came back from commercial or just pretend it didn't happen and move on to the next segment. But how do you pretend this didn't happen? How do you come back from something like this? And somewhere in the building, Ryan Reynolds was probably already in a car, driving away from what would become one of the most talked about moments in talk show history. The biggest blow-up The View had ever seen. Joy sat back down heavily in her chair, the other hosts trying to console her, or maybe just trying to figure out what to say when they came back from commercial. The energy in that studio had completely shifted from excitement to shock to something that felt almost like grief, like everyone had just witnessed something die. What was supposed to be a fun, promotional appearance had turned into a full-blown disaster that nobody could have predicted. Nobody saw this coming. "Did that really just happen?" one of the hosts whispered, her voice barely audible. But the microphones caught it anyway. Her eyes were wide, still processing what she'd just been a part of. Nobody had an answer. Because yes, it really just happened. Ryan Reynolds, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, had just been kicked off The View after the most explosive argument anyone had seen on daytime television in years. And it all happened in real time, live, for millions of people to witness. The cameras had captured everything, every word, every gesture, every moment of anger and frustration. And now, it was out, there, forever, part of television history. This wasn't going away. This was going to follow both of them for the rest of their careers. Years from now, people would still be talking about the day Ryan Reynolds and Joy Behar completely lost it on live television. The day everything fell apart in just 21 seconds.